Nimbulubinaka, I'm Dr. Chone Hawea. I thank all of you who watched my previous video in Talanoa, commented and asked a lot of pertinent questions that I will try to answer in this Talanoa session. Before I do that, I am going to make a comment about the most recent Fijian government move to force or impose vaccination to all employers and employees in both the public and private sector. I condemn that move because it is totally unethical. It is totally unethical. In medical practice, we never force any medical intervention on any individual because we are governed by a universal law called medical ethics. And in medical ethics, the first and most important principle is that of the right of any individual to a well-informed consent. They must agree to any intervention. If they disagree, and it is irrespective of the public health issue at hand, whether it is an outbreak, a pandemic, or the usual medical practice every day, we do not force any medical intervention. It is against all ethical principles that govern our practice as doctors worldwide. It is against all our ethical principles. Now, I am not against vaccination. That must be clear. I am not against vaccination. COVID-19 vaccination has a lot of ethical considerations. The COVID-19 pandemic also has a lot of ethical considerations. Now, those considerations are for dialogue and debate. And there are a certain group of medical doctors that are for the COVID-19 as a pandemic, and therefore they support the COVID-19 vaccination move. And there are certain groups of doctors that are against it, and that is part of our medical practice as doctors. I am not against vaccination, certainly, but I am against this unethical practice of forcing vaccination on anyone, whether they be an employee, an employer, or just citizens of any country. Certainly citizens of this country. I made an oath. We as doctors made an oath to stand by our ethics and protect humanity. And when we took that oath, we know we are not only legally obligated, we are also morally obligated through humanity values to uphold these ethical principles. What are these ethical principles? There are 4 pillars that these universal ethical principle stand on. They are autonomy, and autonomy says that I, as a doctor, in my practice, the interventions that I give to my patients, or the society should not be influenced by outside self-interests, whether it has to do with economy, private sector, or whatever reason outside of medical, scientific grounds to fully benefit my patient or the individuals or groups of individuals that I am implementing my medical intervention to. I am bound by the first principle of autonomy. I must be able to exercise my practice without coercion by my employer, by any outside funder. I must be alone in my decision to intervene. Also, by this principle of autonomy, the patient's autonomy is respected. The patient has the right to fully consent. It has to be a well-informed consent. They must arrive at a decision to agree or disagree. If they agree, well and good. If they disagree, well and good. It is their human right, irrespective of work status, irrespective of societal status, whether it is a criminal, a lawyer, a teacher, a cane cutter, a businessman. Irrespective of that, everyone has the universal human right to agree or disagree to having this medical intervention. In this case, vaccination. The Constitution of this country is a higher law than any act, the Public Health Act or the Occupational Health and Safety Act. The Constitution of this country is a higher law, and under the Constitution of this country is the part that deals with human rights, and under that is the right of any individual to agree or not accept any medical intervention, even if we have educated the individual on all sides of the medical intervention, the pros and cons. They still have the right to refuse, and if they do refuse, they must not be victimized. That is the first principle of autonomy. Every individual has that right, and we as doctors are bound by law and by moral values to uphold that first principle of autonomy. We as the practitioner must be autonomous. The patient's autonomy must also be respected, or the individual's autonomy, the one that is going to be receiving the medical intervention. In this case, it's vaccination. The second pillar is non-maleficence. Non-maleficence says that my intervention should not do further harm or by me intervening, I should do no harm or no further harm, or no harm should arise as a result of my intervention. Now, the government's move to force vaccination, it goes with this title, no jab, no job. If I agree to that, then I am agreeing to the financial harm that is going to come upon this individual if they do not receive the intervention. Financial health is also a part of health. Now, if they lose their income, they will not be able to support their family. They will not be able to partake in the social activities, and they will be socially ostracized. They can be depressed mentally. Now that means that my intervention is creating a lot more harm. And when you balance the harm versus benefits, when you weigh the harm versus benefits, I will come to that later, the benefits of vaccination. I will come to that later in this Talanoa. For now, if I agree to this imposition of vaccination, it means I am agreeing to the fact that, first of all, I am taking away the autonomy of every individual. In this case, it's every individual who is an employer and an employee to agree or disagree to be vaccinated. I am removing that autonomy, and then I am going to be doing more harm. The business owner will have their business closed down. Employees will not be able to go to work and not be able to provide food and essential needs for the family. That is doing more harm. So by two principles already, we have become unethical. Now, the third principle is the principle of beneficence, benefits. My intervention must have benefits, maximum benefits for the individual that is receiving. In this case, it is the employees and employers who are receiving this imposition of vaccination, this forceful vaccination. Who gets to benefit? The side effects to this vaccine has not been fully trialed and fully studied. That is a fact. I'm going to come to that later. The benefits of this health move is the economy. And the economy is not a justifiable reason enough for me to impose this health intervention. There is no justifiable reason to impose any health intervention for that matter. And so The benefits are to those that are governing this country, to restore the economy. That responsibility must not be placed on individuals and for that to determine. And for that reason, we doctors have to compromise on our ethics. So this is no benefits to recipients of vaccinations, because first of all, it's imposed. The autonomy is not respected. We are doing more harm by this imposition, because if not, they are going to lose their jobs, businesses are going to shut down, and then the benefits, even after the second jab, everyone still has a 92% protection. That is still a very much debatable issue with this vaccine. And all doctors know that. The fourth pillar is justice. Justice covers the side of the law, and in this case, the government is trying to justify the medical intervention. First of all, it is unjust on us doctors, because we are breaking every rule book in our code of ethics, in our ethics standards, if we agree to impose vaccination. We will be breaking every rule. If we agree to this, we no longer exist as doctors in Fiji. If we agree to this move to forcefully vaccinate, and if they disagree, they will lose their jobs and their businesses will be shut down. We as doctors cannot agree to this move, because it is totally against medical ethics. It is injustice. So when we look at the four pillars and put the current medical intervention in front of it and judge the intervention by the code of ethics, the standard of ethics, it fails. It fails totally. It is totally unethical with regards to autonomy, non-maleficence, beneficence, and justice. There is no autonomy. We are going to do a lot of harm than good. The benefits are not really that clear versus the harm that we are creating. And it does no justice. You cannot justify imposing medical intervention. There is no law that will support forcefully vaccinating anyone. That is my comment, and I have to appeal to the authorities of medical doctors in Fiji, and the two institutions that I am calling upon are the Fiji Medical Association and the Fiji College of General Practitioners. You are the mandated institutions to ensure that medical ethics is always practiced. That is why we all support the vaccination campaign. We strategize by allowing members of the public who have authority, the church, faith-based organizations, sporting heroes, and all members of the public who are influencers in our society. And we can only go that far. We will preach about the pros and cons about vaccination, but at the end of the day, every individual, irrespective of the nature of the public health issue, forcing vaccination remains unethical and therefore unlawful. The amendment to the Occupational Health and Safety Act does not justify in any way the unethical move that the government has just made. That has to be clear. And I hope the two institutions, the Fiji Medical Association and the Fiji College of General Practitioners, can put together their views on the ethical consideration of this move by government. But to everyone out there, as a doctor, it is unlawful. It is unethical and unlawful. I am not against vaccination. I am against unethical practice. And in this case, it is unethical to forcefully vaccinate anyone. The Honorable Minister for Health and the Permanent Secretary for Health had both assured the public in Fiji that no one will be forced to be vaccinated. And they are part of the government. And so the government has just acted against its own words on this. That alone tells me there is grounds for conflict of interest. When the same authority that tells me that no one will be forced to be vaccinated, the same authority is also saying you have to be vaccinated, otherwise you will lose your job or your business will be closed down. No one has the authority to forcefully vaccinate anyone. We do not have that authority as doctors, and we will never practice by those unethical standards. Never. We will never support it. I will never support it.